All right, we're going to get started. The notice requirement provided for the Open Public Meetings Law has been satisfied. Notice was properly given. Said notice having been transmitted to the Courier News on Tuesday, April 21st, 2020, as well as posting on the city's website. Clerk, may we have a roll call?
Council members Davis.
Present.
Councilman Good.
Present.
Councilman McKenna. Present. Councilman McCray.
He's muted.
Okay, I do see that Councilman McCray is present, but is having issues with unmuting himself.
I'm here. I'm here.
Councilwoman Mills Ransom.
Present.
Vice President Armati.
Here.
Council President Hockaday.
Here.
We have all members present and a quorum.
Thank you. This evening, the Plainfield Municipal Council will conduct its budget deliberations on the 2020 calendar year municipal operating budget. This session is scheduled to discuss the Department of Health and Social Services and the Department of Communication and Technology. Would the Department of Health and Social Services please begin with their budget overview?
Good evening, Council President Hockaday, members of the City Council, CBAC Chairperson Bright, members of CBAC, and Mayor Matt. I am proud to represent the 40 members who work hard every day to ensure that all residents in Plainfield can achieve health, well-being, and self-sufficiency. I would like to take a moment to recognize my department for their work during this pandemic. It has been difficult and at times heartbreaking, but they show up every day and will continue to do so. They bring honor to this administration and to this city. The department is comprised of the divisions of health, community development, social services, which also is known as Plainfield Action Services, and the Plainfield Performing Arts Center, which I will, throughout my speech, call PPAC. In 2019, I was honored to chair the 150th Anniversary Committee, which created a year-long celebration of Plainfield's past and present. 7,700 people attended various events. One of our events, the House Music Festival for Prostate Cancer Awareness, which is the only house music festival in the nation dedicated to health, attracted 3,000 people. These celebrations increase civic pride, social connection, and community awareness. In PPAC's first 6 months, more than 3,800 people visited. In March 2020, more than 2,000 people would have used the facility. Without any promotion of PPAC's availability, rental interest was strong. An increase extended into 2021. Plainfield's creative arts community is truly international and vibrant. Our goal is to reinforce both cultural and economic development. Because of the intense interest in PPAC and potential workforce development initiatives, there's a request in the 2020 budget for one position. Through our advocacy, we have lifted up issues that impact urban communities, such as legislation opposing human trafficking, which Plainfield is one of a handful of cities in the nation which requires companies that submit RFPs, with requests for purchases, and RFQs, requests for qualifications, to acknowledge that the city does not work with companies that engage in any type of modern-day slavery. We initiated a resolution opposing federal legislation that would reintroduce redlining in communities of color and updated the film ordinance to make Plainfield more film friendly. In 2019, we continue to manage the HUD process, which ensures that $1.2 million continues to impact local nonprofits and city projects such as roads, parks, and athletic fields. The CHAP program, which is our comprehensive housing assistance program, has a portfolio of over $11 million with non-interest-bearing loans to homeowners to do non-essential repairs. In 2019, through the CHAP program, we were able to service 13 homeowners. We helped 38 seniors with $500 grants for minor home repairs, and we housed 30 families due to various emergencies. The Vacant and Abandoned Initiative continues to show progress. After reflecting on the 2019 budget deliberations, our takeaway was, how do we determine our efficacy? So we looked at data in a new way. In 2019, the office collected $318,000 through registration fees, $136,000 in abatement liens, $18,000 in court fees, and 24 abandoned vehicles were towed on a total of 302 properties. In 2020, we will continue to evaluate our impact to improve our capacity. The Home Buyers Program expanded, bringing in 3,600 potential home buyers from cities in New Jersey, New York City, and Pennsylvania to Plainfield. We work with upwards of 150 residents in foreclosure through relationships with various partners. We are working to become HUD certified counselors so that we can become more effective in our service delivery. We are gearing up for the potential uptick in distressed homes. The Division of Social Services, also known as Plainfield Action Services, work to prevent homelessness through rental, energy, case management, food assistance, and in some cases, employment assistance. PAS has helped almost 4,000 individuals stay housed and continues to receive recognition for its service delivery and has become a model for other agencies. In 2019, PAS received over $300,000 in grants for direct support of those in need. In the 2020 budget, one position was requested as a homeless outreach office worker, and the overall budget was not increased. The division is aggressively gearing up to assist the projected increased demand of our residents due to the impending recession. The Health Division served the residents with programs and services that promoted health for the entire community. Services are coordinated to ensure that the public is safe from infectious diseases and healthy behaviors are encouraged. In 2019, we vaccinated 1,045 residents with 2,069 vaccinations. We issued 425 flu shots. We investigated 89 new lead cases, and the public health nurse monitored 195 cases. We achieved a goal of 100% inspection of retail food establishments and monitored 486 infectious disease cases. In 2019, residents were able to order vital certificates online, and we were working with various vendors to provide options for residents to order pet licenses online as well. Through health education, we reached over 7,300 residents, educating them on healthy eating options, diabetes and hypertension management, as well as general wellness. We continually build on our strong relationships with both Rutgers University and the Plainfield Health Center. In conclusion, Council President, I have presented my 2020 budget recommendations. As my colleagues before and after me, we have been charged by Mayor Matt to look for reductions. The department is 45% grant funded. The budget request for 2020 is $1.3 million, which represents 1.9% of the total municipal budget. I'm pleased to answer questions on the department's fiscal year 2020 budget request. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Questions from council, starting with the Finance Chair, Councilman Charles McCray.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Director Brown, I'd like to commend you and your staff on the excellent job you're doing. It's very reflective in the report you just gave. I'd also like to shout out the Plainfield Action Services, where I sit on the board that we're doing a phenomenal job over there with Rashira, Director Rashira, and her staff that are servicing a lot of the community. It's an amazing job you guys are doing, and to see what you're doing now during this pandemic time is exceptional and above and beyond the call of duty. So I applaud you for that, and I will now turn it back over to y'all because my questions have been answered through all that you've presented. I just hope that we will support you and your budget and keep supporting programs that are very vital to the community that you bring.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Move next to Councilwoman Joylette Mills Ransom.
Good evening, Director Brown.
Good
I'd
evening.
like to echo the outstanding work statements that Councilman McCray made. I too sat on Plainfield Action Services Board and am very impressed with the work that's done there. Even in this last week, the director has reached out to me to make connections for items that she had that needed to get to the community. So I'm just really impressed with the data that you're keeping in terms of your abandoned homes and the like, and hopefully that you will keep up the good work and we can support you in doing that. I have no specific questions.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We'll next move to Councilman Good.
Good evening, Director Brown.
Good evening, sir.
I'm going to piggyback off of Councilman McCray and, of course, Councilwoman Mills Ransom. When I look at your department, it's always a consistency of just being consistent on what you guys do, especially Plainfield Action Services. And what's even better than consistency is being proactive. And as I said in the beginning of our deliberations, when they first started, no one saw this pandemic coming. And for the city of Plainfield to band together the way that it has over the last couple of months and accomplish so much, it makes me proud to be in the city at this time. So again, thank you so much. I did have just a couple of questions, and I'm just going to just rattle them out real quickly. I do notice that in 2019, you initiated removal of 6 abandoned vehicles, but that number, I'm pleased that it has gone up from 6 to 24. I believe you mentioned that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Can you tell us how successful were the 6 presentations for the homeowner to increase the homeowner buyer activity? Those presentations, can you remind me how successful they were? Was the attendance high? And how is this information available for those that are basically thinking of moving here, but probably don't know where to find that information? There was something else. I noticed that your objective for 2019 was to make the work with the IT division to improve the website for the health division, making it user friendly. And I see a date here of September 30th, 2019, by 2019. And then I see another one that says to make it user friendly by September 30th, 2020. Is there a problem with that? Or are you making adjustments, or is this a day-to-day thing? And because of the pandemic, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are relying on online services, and I think this would be a credit to the city. After all of this is over, we will find out that we can get probably so much more done online than probably walking into City Hall, just from the stats alone. So is this continuing to be user-friendly? And is it basically on a week-to-week basis, or you just, there's some bugs in the system, or how can you explain that for me? Can you give me an example? And can you give me an example also? What do you mean by technology for predictive purposes? Can you know, I'm just curious about that one as well. And basically, also have seen where your equipment rentals for 2019 was for just basically a little bit over $3,700. And now you're asking for $3,000 for the 2020 budget. I'm just curious, because that's just me. What was cut? Because obviously there was something cut. And that's it. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Director Brown. Appreciate your presentation, as always.
Thank you, sir. I'll start with the technology piece. So for me, it will always be something I'll work on. So every year I will work on technology as something that I aspire to for my department. We have been challenged by this pandemic to get as much as we can online. So I'll hark back to 2019 when we looked at Vital Check. There was a request by residents to be able to order their forms, their birth certificates and marriage certificates and death certificates online. And so we were able to get that. It took a little longer than we thought it should to implement. And so we probably got that up towards the end of the year. So next year, well, this year, I'm sorry, 2020, we're trying to do that with pet licenses. And as much as we can get online is what we're trying to do. And so that is my goal, and it will probably always be my goal. When I look at predictive sciences in health and in all things, you try to predict certain things, and you have to use data to do that. And so that's why they have this GIS system. Public health systems are looking at how they can look at, for instance, the flu. So you know that you're going to have the flu, you know that it's going to exist. Your goal, and you can kind of track what areas the flu may exist in based on last year's numbers. And so you want to get to that community and say, these are some of the things you need to do to get, to deal with the flu. And that's predictive. So we're predicting next year that we may have, 1,000 cases of the flu in a particular area. What I want to be able to do is go to that area and get those residents information about the flu, how to keep themselves healthy, or how to get their shots. I want to be able to do that. And I think there's technology out there that allows us to do that. And that has always been my vision and goal, because it makes public health more proactive as opposed to being reactive. And that is ultimately the goal. Equipment rentals. So we had some costs, I think, when we took on PPAC that were not things that we need to pay for going forward. And so because of that, we were able to reduce our budget and our requests because we took care of some of those things in 2019. The home buyers presentation. So we generally have those with local banks, or credit unions. So it could have been TD Bank, which was one of ours. It was NACA. And what they do is they tell people how to go about getting a loan mortgage, how to fix their credit, what they may need to do to position themselves to buy homes, how to look for the homes. So those things are really impactful. I think that what you're asking me is for the data. So when we looked at 2019, we worked with M&T Bank. M&T Bank was one of the banks that we partnered with who were giving out about $18,000 to new homeowners to purchase homes in Plainfield, essentially. About 33 people purchased homes based on that $18,000 grant. And so those are the kind of things that we try to implement with all our partners. It's not just having people come to present, but it's what can you do for the Plainfield so that they can buy homes in Plainfield. And so that's how we gauged our success for the home buyers presentation. Our largest was 1,300 people, and that was with NACA. And we'll be getting that data from them very shortly, and I'll be glad to share it with everyone as well. And did I answer every question?
Council President, if I may follow up with one question that I left out, if that's okay.
Certainly.
How far are we now that we're in mid-year of 2020, are we with the abandoned property portal?
So,
You're creating a vacant and abandoned property portal that would allow the
So
residents to be able to. So now we're in the mid-year. How far are we with that?
well, we were in discussions with IT about that, and we're going back and forth, and then it stopped because of pandemic, so we had to shift. We will pick it up again, because I think what that portal did for us, and will be doing for us, is when residents see an abandoned property, they can let us know through that portal and identify that property to us, and we can react and do what we have to do in order to deal with it. And so that was our goal, and that still continues to be one of our goals for 2020. We've not accomplished it yet, but we are still working on it for sure.
Director Brown, thanks again.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Council President.
Okay, we'll move to Councilwoman Ashley Davis.
Yes. So Director Brown, I'm just going to echo everyone about the great job that you and your departments and your various divisions are doing. But I do have a few questions. So because your budget is mostly grant funded, is there a contingency plan just in case some of these grants are not received? Does your various departments, and especially Plainfield Action Services, have the capacity to pivot to be eligible for other funds that may become available due to the pandemic? For the health department, many of the goals included fairs and community outreach. How many of these will we be able to do virtually? One of their goals was to complete vaccine clinics. And I just so happened to hear on the news today how the number of vaccines have decreased in places because people were afraid to take their kids to the doctors. So what will be done to encourage people to participate in these vaccine clinics and to also ease public fears? Also in the health department, why was the conferences and convention line overspent last year? If you can speak to the role of outside consulting services, and also with the pandemic that's going on, if the health department could kind of speak to the cleaning of City Hall and the annex. So when it's time to reopen, you know, for the benefit of the public, they could just be reassured that City Hall is clean and as safe as possible. Pet licensing, I know you said that's not online yet, but how is that going with getting more pets licensed? Has there been clarity around pet licensing, and how will we get the word out about the renewal of pet licenses? For Plainfield Action Services, how come the conferences and convention line was not really utilized? Also, the Art Center, is there a separate budget for that, or is that budget within your budget? And those are all of my questions.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I have 10 questions that you gave me. Is that correct, Councilwoman?
Oh, I didn't number them.
Okay, I'm sorry. So when it comes to grants, we do know that we have grants, particularly in Plainfield Action Services through 2021. Our HUD grants are through 2021, as well as Plainfield Action Service grants through 2021. Recently, I put forward a resolution concerning the lead grant, which is through this year, in anticipation that we may not get that money. And it was a conditional layoff plan that the council approved. To be quite frank with you, I'm not sure what's going to happen after 2021. And indeed, we have to look at our systems and operations to make sure that we prepare for any loss of funding. But I really do think that because we are social services and there's a need for, they really are funneling money through our agency to get out to the people. I don't think that we will have necessarily a problem in acquiring grants and funding. The CARES Act will be funneled through either the CSBG or the CDBG block grants. And so that's how the money for the next couple of years will be coming through. And we are the agencies that will expend it. So I'm not terribly concerned about that, other than the lead grant, which is supported by the state. Our staff has pivoted well, but when we look at pivot, we have always done this work. And so for us, it's really just about building up the capacity and using technology or anything that we can to make sure that we get people the services that we need. When we look at WIC, when we look at vital statistics, we are now doing certain things online, which we would never have done before. And so we are still doing the work and we're still meeting our numbers, but it's doing it in a different way. And so I think that the department has pivoted, and I don't like to say pivot because we've always been doing the work. So I think that we are still doing the work. We just have to do it in a different way. I'll talk about virtual fairs because that covers a lot of things in my department. We are looking at how we're going to have it. Clearly, we're not going to have any public gatherings clearly to the end of the year. And so we're looking at 2021 to do some of these things. But in an interim, we do need to still continue to have health information sent out to our community. We still will need to have ways in which we have to get out the information. And so we'll probably be doing it on Zoom. We'll probably be doing the technologies that we have now, but we are working through it. It has been a challenge. And I can't say we completely have all the answers, but we are on the track and we are studying how to figure it out. And we're using best practices that our partners are using as well. Vaccine clinics, I'm going to let Dr. Nazir in a few minutes answer that question. And he will answer questions 4 and 5, which is also conferences and conventions. Cleaning the city hall, that really doesn't fall under Dr. Nazir, but it will fall under the committee that is gathered together to deal with the reopening of the city. All department heads are pretty much a part of that. And we're coming up with a plan in which when we open up City Hall and Annex, it is done in a safe manner that is cleaned on a regular basis and cleaned with industrial cleaner. And that when either the employees or the residents come back, that we practice social distancing, that we practice all those things that will keep us healthy and safe, and that are the right things to do. We probably will never have a full capacity building of residents. They will have to wait on lines, but that's why we're trying to convert a lot of things to online so that our residents can do a lot more things, a lot more of their business online. Pet licensing I'll give to Dr. Nazir. The Arts Center indeed does not have a separate budget, so it still falls under community development, and that's where we spend some of the money. And so we have to work around it and make sure that happens as well. Conference conventions, of course, we won't be doing. But Dr. Nazir, can you address?
Chip, before you go to Dr. Nazir, let me give an update with regard to the Performing Arts Center. Because under community activities, we do have OE money there for the Arts Center.
Okay, right. The community development. Dr. Nazir, do you want to talk? Can you please talk about the vaccine clinics? I know that we had, and the challenges of vaccines. I know during the mayor's Facebook live chat, he brought up, in fact, that we have to continue to get our children vaccinated because failure to get vaccinated would mean the recurrence of a lot of childhood diseases that we have already dealt with. And certainly we don't want that to happen now. We haven't figured out how we're gonna do it, but Dr. Nazir, will you just briefly talk about that?
Good afternoon, Council President, Mayor, and all the other council people and administration. About the vaccination program, we understand we are right now in pandemic mode to respond to the COVID-19 crisis, but we are not ignoring the vaccination program. Last year, we did a vaccination, about 3,069 vaccination was given to the community. Around 1,045 people was vaccinated. This year, because of this pandemic issue, as soon as the situation will be under control, we are going to open up this clinic for the community with the proper protocol and guideline. And the DOH is also working on that one also, because we don't want to leave the people with other preventable disease, because we have vaccine sitting in our office, we want to give to the community. But because of this COVID-19 situation, as soon as it is solved, we are going to open up that clinic with the guideline from the State Health Department. The second question was about the pet licensing. We are looking on that one. We have a couple of vendors, but they are not, there is an IT issue, they are not on cloud-based. We are looking for a cloud-based technology, and hopefully we will be, in this year, we will get that one online, running online. and the people can apply for the pet license from their home on the computer.
Dr. Nazir, could you address, and I know we talked about it, the conference line?
Yes, on the conference line, I remember that one. There was a charge for a vital statistic office. We bought a seal stamp that was broken, and that was by, I think, error that was charged on this account. It should be moved to our maintenance of office equipment line. It look like it is not moved to that account. Once we move that one, it should be within the range, within our budget line.
So that you know that seal is necessary for the documents to be authentic in the health division. So it's important that we did that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nazir.
Yeah, the seal is we had to give the certified copy of the birth certificate, death certificate, and we had to buy that seal was broken, and we ordered that seal for the vital office. Without that seal, the document is not officially certified.
Okay. Councilwoman Davis, you have the opportunity for any follow-up questions.
Yes, so thank you to you both for your answers. I appreciate that pet licenses are going to be moved to an online system. But I know last year there was a lot of confusion about when people should get them, whether or not they were receiving notices that they should renew their pet licenses, or they were receiving too many notices after they had already licensed their pets. So have we kind of got a handle on that to ensure that, one, everybody gets at least one notice, and two, once their pets are licensed, we're not resending out notices? Because I know that was a big complaint that I got from members of the public.
So I'll take this, Dr. Nazir. We have, we also received those complaints, so we took them seriously, and we stopped the process so that we can revamp the system and look at it again. In the process, we did have this situation, pandemic happened, but we are recognizing the fact that we have to redo it so that when we roll it out again, when it's time to be rolled out, it is done properly so people don't receive multiple notifications, and that we notify people early enough. So instead of notifying them in January of the year that they have to have it done, we notify them in November or December, well before the time that they have to do it, so it gives them ample time to prepare. We're not here to penalize our residents. We're really here to support them. And that's how we're going to look at it going forward.
Thank you. We'll next move to Councilman McKenna.
No, I don't have any questions with this format, so thank you.
We'll next move to Vice President Armati.
Thank you. Director Brown, I want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues and really thanking you for the outstanding work that your department does. I only had a few questions to ask. One was regarding your salary and wages. Well, I noticed that they've dropped consistently since 2015, where they were about 200,000. Now it's about 170. So I was just curious what you attributed to that decrease. Another was the initiative, staff education and training. I noticed last year you did spend a lot of your budget, and one of your initiatives this year was to obviously increase your staff's knowledge and training. So, you know, what do you have planned in the works for them on that front? And then last but not least, how are you going to be gearing up to potentially serve more citizens given the impending pandemic that you had spoken about earlier when you did your introduction?
Okay, thank you, sir. 3 questions. Staff, I'll do staff education and training. So for me, it is really important that we have a staff that is educated and understands best practices. And so I felt that I committed as much money as I could within my budget to make sure that our staff members were getting the best education so that they can benefit the residents. A group of individuals, employees who are at the top of their tasks do a better job. And when they go out, they come back with new ideas that we use that actually were quite successful, and it made us more efficient in the work that we do. I know that some people have asked me about one of the programs that's on that is the drone program. And in cities much larger than us and cities that's much smaller than us, they're using drones when looking at vacant and abandoned houses. One, because it's a safer mechanism to go into the backyard. However, you can't just put a drone up in the air. You have to be FCC qualified. And so that's one of them. We sent a lot of our staff to learn different techniques, like whether it was Excel or whatever it was. I can't remember one of them. That was the goal, and that is the benefit to us and to the city. We have, at least in my department, we have a highly trained staff who really, because of their training, were able to really pivot and as we say, and do a fantastic job because they've had experience, whether it was in the health division or community development. And I stand by that. 2020 is a challenge, but I know that everyone's doing things as webinars, and the cost will be significantly less, I'm sure, because you don't have to travel. So that's a line certainly that we can look at. But we are still aggressively looking at how do we do our work better and how can we bring best practices to the city. Gearing up. So again, we have spent a good amount of time and discussion amongst ourselves of how will we handle now, because it came so quickly. How do we service the people that we have right now? And that we did by using technology as best we can, asking people to do things online, give us our forms in a different way. We try to put as much as we can up online, and then you just drop those documents off. We're certainly trying to create an environment where there's low to minimal contact and social distancing. So we're really in the midst of trying to figure that out. I don't have complete answers, but I will tell you that we are certainly aiming for almost paperless. Our goal is, and we have to do that, you know, from a public health perspective. We have to look at how do we become paperless and how do we eliminate as much contact as possible, whether it's depositing checks. We don't want to physically have checks and cash because that could have coronavirus on it, right? But we still need to get our payments, and we still need to be able to process those documents. And so we're trying to figure it out. It's like flying a jet and learning to fly at the same time, and that's what we're doing. But we are committed to making sure that we do what we have to do with the staff that we have. Again, we already started to see an increase in residents coming to our office. When we look at last year's numbers and this year's numbers, they're larger. The people asking for help. We will commit more time to it and be really efficient about it. And that's what we're trying to do.
Chef Ron, would you also cover the fact that there was a retirement in your organization?
No, I was getting ready to get, that was my next, yeah, that was my next one, salary and wages. So we had a retirement of a senior employee, and that's probably why, we had a reduction.
Perfect. All right.
And that's also why we changed that to the homeless outreach officer, and it still was under budget, and we still had a reduction in our overall budget.
Excellent. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. Director, I have just some comments and questions. So,
yes, sir.
you know, so just overall, congratulations. I think that you're doing a really difficult yet wonderful job in managing your department. You know, your department is primarily responsible for you know, spearheading the efforts in the city of Plainfield's response to the ravages of the COVID-19 virus. So you are so important to us that you are doing that work, and the way you're keeping up with everything. We're just appreciative of everything that you're doing. So just a very hearty thank you, because, you know, we certainly consider your department amongst the frontline workers who we know we all as a city are indebted to.
Thank you, sir.
In terms of your goals and objectives, there's some things that I'm really proud about, you know, especially with the home buyer activity, and making sure that, you know, individuals are able to receive the grants that they've been able to receive through partnership with the different banks. this is something that's going on with many urban centers that that have been victimized by redlining, you know, with the last bubble. So Plainfield is one of those communities where there's going to be that type of remediative measures, you know. So I'm very grateful that your department is taking the reins and making sure that that information is given to our residents and other residents who are interested in moving to our town, because that's very important. And I'm only mentioning it, you know, many know, I'm just mentioning it again because I think it is very important that we take advantage of those dollars, those programs that are available for people who want to join us in the Queen City to make our city, you know, even better and a more affordable place to live. So that's just awesome. I also see, you know, you rehabilitated and opened the Dudley House for veterans transitional housing. I was there at that grand opening. And they did a really wonderful job rehabilitating that as well. Just one indication how the city is being sure is making sure we're not leaving people behind, you know, because we, you know, there's development and et cetera going on all through the city, many market rate that people can't afford, but there's also programs throughout the city that we're taking care of those who don't have a lot of money. So I'm happy to see that that's a priority in this administration and in your department. And I encourage you to continue to do initiatives like that and continue to look for opportunities to take care of those who may find it difficult to take care of themselves. Also the abandoned vacant properties. I mean, getting those straight to see if we can eliminate blight in the town. Those are all good things that should be lauded and recognized that your department is doing. I also want to recognize, you know, that Plainfield's been designated as a healthy city 2 years in a row in 2018 and 2019. You know, again, because of your initiatives and just caring for, you know, the city, our residents and city employees. So congratulations for all of that. So what I want to know about is so your department is probably the one department where I would have the most difficulty, you know, cutting the budget because of your role in protecting us and with respect to this COVID-19 virus. But I'm still want to know if there's any efficiencies that you can achieve, even in light of the fact that you're doing the lion's share of work for the COVID-19. And then my second question is relative to your staff, because when I see the numbers, you know, we're over 2,000 cases in Plainfield with over 2,000 quarantined in terms of COVID-19 exposure. Keeping up with those numbers is a lot of work. So I'm wondering how you allocate your staff in order to keep up with that, and whether you have enough staff, do you need to hire more staff? So those are the two questions I have.
Okay. I'll start with the last one first. As we, and probably everyone knows, the mayor is very aggressive about wanting to have every Plainfield attested. And so we are working hard to try to get that done. Having said that, the more people we test, there's a greater potential that we will have more positives, and that, well, we will have more positives. The great thing about that is that we should be able to get them the care, or at least direct them into the way that they can get care. Right now, we have 9 employees directly with us who are doing contact tracing. For instance, I know Dr. Nazir pivoted one of our employees from Vital Statistics Office to do contact tracing. We also have major assistance from our Department of Education. So I actually want to thank the Board of Education for giving us 3 nurses to help us with contact tracing. We have assistance from, and I think we have part-time help from the School of Public Health. And so having said that, yes, I do think that we will probably need more contact tracers, because if we're looking at a city of 50,000 people, we're certainly going to see those numbers increase. And Dr. Zia and I have been working on trying to figure out what those numbers are. How we would pay for it, I think that we certainly would try to go through CARES, the money from the federal government has been made accessible to municipalities to deal with this. I know the state is also working to come up with money to pay for contact tracing. We're going to need it, without a doubt. Every state is gearing up to do contact tracing, because at the end of the day, if you prepare to open, if you prepare, whether it's a school or a business, as we begin to open the city, we need to know what we're dealing with. We need to know if individuals are asymptomatic or symptomatic. One of the benefits of knowing who is positive is that they can get the care. And then if they're in a home, particularly in some of our communities where we have people living in apartment buildings, but multi-generational homes, right? So they may have 8, 9 people in the house, mother, father, grandmother, children. We need to be able to get them tested as well, because they may not be showing it, but they may be impacted. They may have to go in quarantine. And so all of that is important. Yes, we will need to gear up. It will be a financial challenge for us, but hopefully we will try to do this through the CARES Act. I'm sorry, the first question was finding an efficiency in...
Just in terms of, are you able to cut your budget any? What have you been able to look at in terms of?
Well, I'm charged with the responsibility, man, to look through all my budget lines, and we're going to look for ways that we can find cuts. And I think I mentioned one already. I think around conferences and conventions, we're certainly not going to be going anywhere. When we look at things like training, we're certainly not going to be traveling to training. And so there are areas that we can certainly cut, and we're going to do it. It is only right and it is only fair. And in a city that is facing such a possible financial challenge, we want to make sure that we contribute to that and do our part. But we still will do our core work, and that's why I've been trying to get so much work done through technology, so much work done through those opportunities.
Thank you, Director. I don't have any follow-up questions, but I would also like to echo you in thanking the Board of Education for that partnership in providing the nurses for the contact tracing.
Yes, they've been awesome.
You know, this pandemic is one that has brought people together, you know, to help out all Plainfielders, regardless of, you know, where they stand. So I'm very, I'm encouraged, you know, that we've been able to do that and to share resources in that way. So, so if they're listening now, thank you. And certainly when you speak with any of those representatives, let them know that.
Absolutely. We
appreciate their partnership. We'll move now to the CBAC Representative Bright.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Director Brown, and thank you for your time here this evening. And on behalf of the CBAC, we just want to say that we're very impressed with your budget presentation. And there was very little that we had to critique in it. We do have 2 questions though. Under the community development, there's a line item 004-220, and we were just wondering what that was allocated for. It's the community champion fees. And the other question is that there was a bilingual community service worker that retired, and in the budget, there's no plans to replace him. And we're wondering if you were going to replace that position. And that was the extent of our questions.
Director?
Yes, okay. As for the retired person, we reconfigured that position. I believe that's the one you're talking about in social services. And we configured that into a position for the homeless outreach office, outreach person. I keep calling it officer, I do apologize. It's a homeless outreach worker. And that person, and that, there's a difference in the salaries, of course, because it's a newer position as opposed to a senior position. And so that's how we got the difference. Community champion fees, I'm gonna try my best to answer this, and I may have to ask Ricky Richgards to help me with that. So we use community champions as our third-party collective when it comes to collecting our fees on our properties. But legally, in order for us to collect that money as a third party, we have to have something in which we balance it against. And that is that line called community champions. So as the money, and I believe that's through community, DCA requires, is that correct, Ricky? Am I saying that properly?
Yes, that's correct. What happens here is that for each registration, there's a $100 fee that they actually take directly from us before they remit the monthly check to us. We need to charge our budget for those fees every time they make a payment to us.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I think that concludes the Department of Health and Social Services portion. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe.
Thank you, and you do the same as you handle the front lines of this pandemic. Thanks. Okay, we will now move to the Department of Communications and Technology. Would the Department of Communications and Technology please present their budget overview? On mute, still muted.
Thank you, Council President. Members of the Council, Chair of the CBAC, Robin Bright, members of the CBAC, Mayor Adrian O'Map, and colleagues, members of the public, good evening. 2020 to date has not gone the way we anticipated, but like my colleague, I'd like to recognize the staff of the communications and the technology team for their response during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our team moved very quickly once the virus became an imminent threat here in Plainfield to create a safe virtual environment for the city to do business. We were able to provide our critical workers at City Hall with devices to work from home in a virtual environment and manage the bulk of this transition within 2 weeks. This included the purchase of additional machines because the city does not have an official work from home policy. So provisions were not made on a large scale to support this kind of working environment. The IT division worked around the clock to find and offer solutions to employees and residents, and researched many options to find the best virtual software for public meetings, inclusive of boards and commissions. We immediately stepped up our virtual communication efforts and added a third newsletter to serve as a resource guide for those needing information and guidance during the COVID-19 pandemic. We now distribute newsletters on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We added a page on the website, which is dedicated solely to providing information on the COVID-19 situation, and that's updated several times per day. We send out daily updates on the statistics for Plainfield, ensuring that our residents have the most current information at their fingertips and can guide their actions accordingly. We have hosted several live broadcasts and Q&As with the mayor and the cabinet and other Plainfield organizations so that residents can get up-to-date and immediate answers to their concerns. And we have also allowed broadcasts on PCTV so that residents can continue their worship as they shelter in place. 2019 was an extremely busy year for the communications and technology team. In addition to planning and hosting our yearly events, we also were integral in the planning of the 150th events that took place throughout the year. In all, we were able to provide resources on the front end and technical and media coverage for each event, support and marketing on the front and back end for over 20 events throughout the year. We are largely a support department, and to that end, we're focused on providing a high level of service to our fellow employees as well as to the residents of Plainfield. We increased our bandwidth for users by replacing worn catalyst switches in several locations. We successfully completed the first phase of our digitization project, which entails the scanning of paper records and files so that they can be accessed digitally. And we integrated the newly digitized information with our fast track system, which is currently automating our workflow across departments. In 2019, we implemented fast track for all the remaining divisions, which were health and planning. We're able to utilize the county's GIS software for use in fast track. And this is currently being utilized by our planning, health, and inspections divisions. We upgraded approximately 80% of our employees to the Windows 10 platform. Those efforts were delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. So as soon as things stabilize or normalize, we'll be able to get back and finish that task. We are in the process of upgrading all desktop units across the city, and that is ongoing as funding allows. As a part of our preventive measures to safeguard the city from cyber attacks, we've implemented a software called KnowBefore that allows us to send fake phishing emails to random employees. And this increases employee awareness and creates teaching opportunities for us to educate them on how to avoid being the victim of attacks like that. Our Media and Communications Division has been working on increasing the visibility of the city's presence all across our social media platforms. And we've been finding new ways to reach our residents, producing high quality, informative content, and supporting other departments with their audiovisual communications and marketing needs. On our Facebook platform in January of 2019, we have increased our presence in terms of likes by 127% for a growth of 3,056 likes. We've increased our followers for a growth percentage of 142%. That has increased from 2,505 to 6,054. Our daily page reach has grown steadily from an average of 800 per day to approximately 4,200 per day, hitting periodic highs of 25,000. Between January 1st, 2019 to March 2019, the total number of impressions from our Twitter feed was approximately 22,600. Over the last 91 days, our tweets have had 277,200 impressions. All our social media platforms have grown tremendously, and we're engaging residents across all demographics. We have produced several original programs for airing on PCTV, social media, and our YouTube channel. We produced the State of the City booklet in addition to 2 print newsletters that were distributed citywide to all residents. Now we're putting out 3 newsletters per week, but during normal times, we put out 2 newsletters per week, every Monday and every Friday. We produced a new ad for the city and ran 4 separate ads in rotation across select markets in New York and New Jersey, on prime time, as well as across digital platforms. Each ad was highlighting something new and positive about our community. We've received a plethora of positive feedback from this successful ad campaign. And additionally, we've harnessed the power of the theater, and we ran our ads in 2 movie theaters over a 6-month period. Like everyone else, the priorities of our department has been realigned since the outbreak of the coronavirus. As such, we will follow the mandate of the mayor and take a close look at our budget and cut all non-essential spending across our budget lines for 2020. With that being said, we will continue in 2020 to provide a high level of service and support to our fellow employees and residents. Here's a broad overview of work to date and anticipated projects. Even as we work to keep our platforms as current as possible, we are in the process of building a new website, which should be rolled out sometime in the 3rd quarter of this year. As with everything else, our efforts were stalled by the pandemic. We will finish the installs needed so that the council meetings can be broadcast live once things return to normal, whatever that is and whenever that is. We're moving forward with developing collaborative projects with the community. Given the current environment, we feel it is more critical now than ever before. We've commenced our 2nd round of Cisco classes, and we're committed to providing opportunities for our residents through that platform. At the end of the day, we are creating careers and not just jobs. and we're changing lives and outcomes in the long term and seeking to amplify the existing strengths of our residents. We're working to realign our goals to meet the current environment while trying to anticipate future needs. And some of our goals and objectives we understand will need to be tweaked as we move through 2020, and we're going to be guided by the priorities of the mayor and the administration as we do so. We'll work to meet the goals and objectives as outlined in the budget while keeping our costs to the barest minimum that we can. At this time, I'd like to invite whatever questions.
Thank you, Director. We'll start with the Finance Chair, Councilman Charles McCray.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your presentation, Director. I know this is challenging times for you because as this pandemic unfolds, we're putting a great reliance on you and your staff to provide us with medium to communicate with one another and to stay in touch with our constituents as we go forward. And I just want to say thank you to your staff, especially Alika, who is here on all our Zoom meetings, and anytime we have questions with the telephones, and your other staff that deals with our laptops and everything, and especially also your media people who have been covering some of the great things that the city has been doing. One of my questions is, and I know you have been working on it, but we started working on the website, and I would like you to just address where we are with that revision, because I know you inherited that website and people are talking about what's wrong with it, what's here, what's there, but you inherited that website and everybody thinks that they can do it easier and better. And I know it's a challenge for anyone, and that IT going forward is going to be very integral in how the city does business. And if you will need additional staff funding to meet that challenge, could you address that?
Yes, thank you, Councilman. As far as the website, and you're right, that was a website that was inherited. When we realized that there were some infrastructure problems with the website, what we did is we had a forensic audit done of the website to find out if it was feasible for us to maintain the current website, or if it made sense to have something built from the ground up. The current website, in addition to having what you see on the front end, has a database of information on the back end. There are almost 300 pages of data that is hosted on that current website. So it is a lot of information that existed before that we tried to crawl through and figure out exactly whether it made sense. And at the end of that, we determined that it would be better for us to rebuild this website from the ground up. There are still, the website is fed by the information that we receive from the various departments around the city, because it is difficult for us to keep up with what every single department is doing on a daily basis. So when the information is sent to us, we update it as soon as we get it, but it becomes problematic. And we also have to send requests for updates out to a third-party vendor to get those done. So with the new website that we're building, we'll have the capability to update the website ourselves in real time. And we will also have a conduit by which information can be sent more efficiently to our department so that we can have faster updates. And the layout of the website itself will be much more user-friendly, with less clicks to get to the information that people want to see most. And we've taken all that into account as we're redesigning the website.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move to Councilwoman Mills Ransom.
Good evening, Director Clayton Hunt. Okay, I want to thank your department also for all of the meetings and all of the newsletters and whatever that we're getting. And I was glad that Councilman McCray started with that website, because that is what we hear about most as council people. And I'm also glad that you were giving us a little background and a couple of the possibilities and the updating in real time and making, having a conduit that would make information flow easier. Can you kind of also tell us what will happen with this new website that may address some of the concerns that the residents have had when they come to the mic? I think basically it's about being able to complete processes or it being user-friendly to them. So maybe there's something that you can share with us about what will happen with this new website that will address those problems. I'm finished.
Oh, okay.
That's my question.
Okay, yes, thank you. So you mentioned processes, and those processes, maybe I need some clarification on processes. I believe that those would be driven by the various departments, because we don't set the processes for other divisions or other departments. If there is something in place for a resident to complete, say, for example, an application, or what we do is facilitate the placement of that information on the website, but we're not the ones who create the documents or decide how that process is going to run. So as we're doing it, we are working with the other departments to find out what is most important, what are the documents that they want to have included on the website, and how those processes would run. So as we're doing the revamp, all of that is being taken into account. Again, we are building it in a way that the information that people want to access most is readily available through one or the most 2 clicks, that they don't have to go drilling down through a department or a long list to find what they want to find. Again, it is going to be a work in progress for at least the first month or 2. And when we roll it out, I know we're going to get feedback from people. We are going to welcome and invite feedback from not only the other departments, but from residents, and we will tweak it accordingly. If they say, you know, this doesn't work and we'd like to see it that way, then we'll be able to work. The developers have committed to us that they're willing to work with us within the, you know, once it's rolled out for at least a month or 2, to ensure that everything that residents want to see is going to be reflected in the new website.
Any follow-up questions, Councilwoman? She looks frozen.
I heard what you were saying, that it's up to the directors and it's a process thing. So is there anything planned to train the directors or someone in their department who are not necessarily gifted in the area of dealing with websites so that this can be a smooth transition?
Yeah, I'm sorry if you misunderstood. We are not, the departments will not have to do their own updates. We will work with them to make those updates. The updates are going to be handled through the Department of Communications. However, we will work with them to find out what type of processes they want to have represented on the website, and to make sure that those are implemented on, you know, whatever page is assigned to that specific department. So we're working closely internally with the various departments and divisions to find out what are the processes that they want to have, what are the forms that people access most, how can we have a lot of these forms accessible through the website rather than having paper forms where people come in. And so while we're in the process of building a website, all of that is being taken into account, and we are asking those questions internally of the various departments. But the updates at the end of the day are going to be handled by the communications team solely.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
I'd like to move to Councilman McKenna.
Yeah, as you know, and as I've said a couple of times, I don't think this format is appropriate or even legal, even in my response to the legal opinion that misquoted the municipal code several times. But so I don't have any questions, but I would like to make a statement. And the statement is that I think the communications department has a lot of work to do. I don't think it's the staff of the communications department, but I'm in marketing and communications. I think the quality of the communications is dated. I think it's extremely slow. I think it's really clunky. I think the website, by the way, you didn't inherit. It was rolled out by the MAP administration, I think a year and a half into his first term. And the other thing too is, as I'm listening to how you're building this new website, I've done this before, and I don't have a lot of faith that it's going to be great, because you're kind of winging it with how you're collecting information about who should get what and what they want to see on the site. Most individuals in departments don't know what should go on a website. And I can tell you right now that the city registrar is not particularly technology inclined, as we're finding out dealing with marriages through the pandemic. So asking her what should be on the website is the last thing you should do, and that's no offense to her, it's not her forte. So to Ms. Mills Ransom's point, helping them with their processes and getting things automated and online and not downloadable PDFs, things that are fillable PDFs that go into Mitchell Humphreys, for God's sakes. We've got hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in this program, and we're just like playing games with 18 systems and not doing any of it well. So it's all going to end up being just kind of, you know, a mess at the end of the day. And the other thing I would like to say too is that I went through the details of some of the communications and IT budget lines, and my colleagues, I'm sure, went through the same thing. They got them because I requested about 105 different detailed account lines. I find it troubling, the costs that are associated with these budget lines that are convention registration that have hotel charges. That's a travel reimbursement. There's a separate line for it. There's community programming that has all kinds of IT in it. There's IT and office supplies and miscellaneous expenses. There's gala charges in random spots. I mean, the stuff is really bad. It's really bad. And I'm kind of embarrassed at the way that some of these costs are posted onto these accounts, instead of just transferring the money out to another account and putting it in the appropriate area. I think without asking any questions, and by the way, there are no questions here, just so you don't think you have to write them down. I don't need to ask any questions to see that your department needs to be cut a lot, because there's a ton of waste and silly spending in there. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. Director West, I mean, there weren't any questions, but was there anything you wanted to address in terms of the budget lines or anything, any responses to what the councilman mentioned?
No, I've got no comments to make. I think that the director covered the challenge that we're going to face with regard to the deployment of technology, because change is never easy, particularly when it comes to technology. And we've got a lot of work to do. There will also be a lot of training that will go on with regard to our staff. You know, we recognize where we have strengths and where we have weaknesses, and we have to get everybody forward for the city to fully benefit. And we recognize that, and that's part of what you know, we will see resulting in terms of all of the deployments going forward.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mayor.
Just wanted to make a small statement in response to one of the statements from the councilman. The website was rolled out in maybe the first or so year of my administration. And the communication director and chief of staff was not in the employ of the city at the time. I take full responsibility for any and everything that happens in my administration. And I must say that the website was rolled out to rave reviews. And websites evolve. And there comes a time when we have to make changes. And we will do that. But I will remind everyone that the current website was rolled out to rave reviews. And we will do what we have to in order to make the changes that are required. And the website and the communications director, as well as every member of the administration, will work cooperatively and collectively in order to make the necessary improvements that are required. It is the MAP administration that is accountable for whatever you see in terms of this administration. I take full responsibility.
Councilman McKenna, you have the floor if you'd like to.
Yeah, so I just want to say this, and I say this because I've been in marketing and communication 18 or 20 years, is that the website, when it was rolled out, was really great. But websites, garbage in, garbage out. If websites are not managed, if websites don't have a mapping system, if websites don't have a navigational pattern that is managed and followed and cleaned up and maintained, they become crappy. So I agree with you. When the website came out, it was a huge improvement over the prior website that the city had. But with a lack of management and a lack of ability to understand proper navigation and updating navigational patterns and pages, it becomes crappy. So I think that it should be noted that it doesn't necessarily mean there's a technology issue. It means that there's no process and understanding how to manage the maintenance of the website.
Thank you. We'll now go to Councilman Good.
Good evening, Director Jazz.
Good evening.
Let me just first say, before these are basically just a statement I'm going to make. I have faith that the upgrades or anything that needs to be done to our website will be done. So let me just make that perfectly clear. To say that I have no faith, I would be lying. Your department should be applauded alone for, as I said, and all our other meetings, no one saw this coming. And for your department to do a virtual transition, updates within 2 weeks is phenomenal. It speaks for itself. With all the scrutiny that, and I can recall in the past that has been said at meetings in regards to your department, anyone can clearly see that you know what you're doing and you're moving forward in the right direction. So I applaud you and your staff for that, let me just say. The residential communication, again, outstanding. Anyone with a smartphone, a tablet, or a laptop, and let me just add to that, a landline, can't say that they have not been able to know what was going on. The updates, the emails, the phone calls, they all have helped this city in a great deal of people finding out where we are, the numbers, whatever, with the good, the bad, the indifferent, they have been well informed. So I have faith that your department will continue to move forward and do all the necessary changes, upgrades, etc., that will make Plainfield continue to look good. So thank you so much for what you do. And I appreciate you. And I'm pretty sure my other colleagues do as well. So thank you, Director.
Thank you, Councilman.
Let me just say, I don't stroke egos. I say what I say. I'm not here to stroke an ego. Anyone that have seen what's been going on the last 2 months cannot say that your department has not done their job.
That's right.
And I hate when people sit back and judge and criticize, and they're not in your shoes or in their shoes. It's not as easy as it looks. And the work that you've done is outstanding.
Councilman.
Okay, we will next move to Councilwoman Davis.
Yes, thank you. So Director Clayton Hunt, one thing I've been saying during this pandemic is that the pandemic was going to show deficiencies in not only organizations, but municipalities, businesses, and everyone. So I do appreciate the fact that your staff did work so hard, as you say, to get the technology and to get everybody to work remotely. But I do have questions. So if you can kind of explain in the communications department what those outside consulting services are for. Also explain the program and community initiatives line. Also, we know that you hold 2 titles, and we see that your salary is divided amongst the 2 titles that you hold. Can you just kind of also explain how your duties and the funds that you expend are delineated amongst those 2 positions that you hold? For constant contact, if you don't have it with you now, if you can just send me the stats for last year with how many people opened up the mayor's newsletters and how many people clicked through them. Also, with the budget, and we know that all the departments are moving to a bare bones budget, can you just speak to ways that your department will utilize free press through various community calendars, press releases to the papers, and the use of local media like Tap Into Plainfield? Also, can you speak to some of the hindrances that caused the live stream to not be up and running just yet? I know that you talked about in your goals, 3 shows were created last year. Can you just speak to what those 3 shows were, and how has the pandemic affected the goal of creating 3 new shows this year? I know that you said the new city website is going to happen. Can you speak to if that's going to be mobile device friendly? Because the current one is not. In your goals, you talked about the 150th anniversary journal. Is that still happening, and when does that expected to be distributed? For professional development, last year the media department only used $220, but this year they're asking for $6,000. If you can speak to what they need that for. If you can also speak to the outside consulting services for media and why it's so much. Why was no overtime requested this year in the budget for IT when we know that they had so much overtime last year that they had to get a budget transfer? Can you speak to the community initiatives line in the IT department and what those funds are being used for? And also, how are the Cisco classes being taught currently? I know you said that they were underway and they were supposed to get underway in March and probably around the time that the pandemic happened. So how have we pivoted to still supply those classes and those services to residents? Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. So in the director's budget, I believe you asked about the outside consulting services line.
Yes.
And that line is where the Cisco consultants are being paid. Well, the Cisco contracts are paid from that line. So that is going to Union County College and also to the tutor that we have that is working on behalf of the city. And that is that's the bulk of that line. For program and training initiatives, you asked for media and communications. That the program and training initiative, specifically the $6,000 in that line, is specifically for the media staff to be trained on how to run the live stream for the council meetings. That cost is $5,900 and I believe like $99 or $95. So that is all going to be used for that. Once that software is installed, there's a specific training that has to take place, and that's where that money is going to be going. You asked about the salary across the two titles. As far as my duties are delineated, my salary is commensurate with all the other directors' salaries. It is paid partly from the line for the chief of staff and partly from the communications and technology line. However, it is in line with what the other directors receive, so I'm not receiving any additional compensation for working in two titles. The duties as chief of staff are mainly as assigned by the mayor, and the other duties, as far as running the department, I believe that you're familiar with those. For stats for last year for constant contacts, I will have to get those to you. I don't have those available right now. How to utilize, if we're planning to utilize free press and local media, we definitely intend to make use of any platforms that we can to get the word out. We have been, to some extent, utilizing our local media by sending daily updates to our Tap Into representatives since this pandemic started. And we actually have a software that we're utilizing that is currently sharing with us where our city is mentioned all across the internet. And we're using that as an opportunity to reach out to other news media to send anything that we think will be of interest or value where the city is concerned. So the short answer to your question is yes, we are looking at alternative ways of getting the word out that is not going to cost the city anything. Hindrances that cause a live stream to not be up and running. So we had several, and I do have Jamie on the line. So if I say anything, Jamie, that you want to elaborate on, please feel free to jump in. But the main setback that we had was that the person was supposed to build out the room that is going to be where we're going to, the stream is going to be sent from at the courthouse, had a family emergency or event that took him out of, he wasn't able to do anything for about 2 to 3 months. So we were waiting for him to be, functional again. And by the time he came back online, then we were faced with the current pandemic. So that all contributed to the delays that we've seen.
He also had a heart attack as well.
Okay, he had a heart attack as well.
Yes, directly after the emergency of the family emergency.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie. Does the pandemic affect the 3 new shows that we are planning on producing this year? Jamie, do you want to say anything about that? Would you like to say something about that?
Yes, it's a big problem because we can't get together and film anything. What I am working on is I've been contacted by some artists within Union County who are looking to, who pitched a docu-series show. And basically each episode will be highlight an artist within Union County, what they go through, what their life is like, and what their struggle is as an artist. Only thing else that we have right now is a show called The Kamala Show. It's a talk show that's out of Los Angeles. Kamala is a Indian American, and she does a talking head show out of California, and she contacted us and asked if we would be partners, and she would send us shows monthly. We are running those right now. The other show was a partnership with Onyx Keisha Films. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with Onyx Keisha. She's in partnership with what's her name now?
Danielle.
Danielle, yes. So they're going to be starting that show this summer. It was supposed to start last year, but if you don't know, she suffered from a medical emergency as well. So she's out of that, and they started to start developing that show this summer as a kid's show. And we're in partnership to assist them with that show, and that will be broadcast on PCTV, hopefully in the next coming year.
And we also rolled out the Plainfield Speaks show.
Yes.
And we taped 4 episodes of that highlighted various segments of the community. We had the faith leaders, we had the educators, we had youth, and we had business owners. And we had more episodes of that show in production, but again, everything has been halted because of the pandemic. Jamie, is there anything else you wanted to add?
I guess I can give an update on the live stream of the council meetings. We were in the last leg of it as of March. We were supposed to begin at the very March 28th, actually, to start the build. So we're right there. Once this pandemic is over, we can get back inside the police department, inside the courthouse, and start the work.
Thanks. Okay, moving on to the next question. You asked about whether the new website was going to be mobile friendly. Absolutely. It is going to be ADA compliant as well as mobile friendly. The journal, it is still in production, and it absolutely is still going to be produced and distributed. That journal was paid for through sponsorship, and so we have an obligation to produce and distribute that journal. You had a question about the professional development for media. I believe I addressed that. You asked about, I'm sorry, I can't read my own handwriting. Community initiatives for IT. And I would like Director Singleton, he's on the line, to speak to that.
I'm here. That's monies that for kind of oddball technology things that we'd like to go out to the community with. For example, right now I'm thinking of doing a game coding contest for kids who are locked in their houses. It would be those types of things that engage them in technology in a novel way. If anybody else has suggestions of novel programs involving technology that they think we could do, I would more than be delighted to entertain those suggestions.
Okay. And the last question, how are our Cisco classes being taught? They're being taught virtually. Our instructor, from the very first day he set up a virtual environment, we contacted all the students and they were all set up with the virtual environment, and those classes have been proceeding on schedule, as well as the tutoring classes on the weekends. And I'm not sure, I think I covered all the questions.
There was, I believe, one other question regarding the use of overtime last year versus what was requested.
Oh, overtime for IT. Director Singleton, could you speak to that, please?
Jazz, this is Ricky. I'd like to take that one for you.
Sure, thank you.
I think the line is miscoded. We have it under acting pay for $2,560, and I believe it should appear on the overtime line.
Thank you, Ricky.
Okay.
Okay. I think that was all the questions. If there's any I missed, I apologize. I think I try to write them all down.
Okay, so I want to clarify the delineation of duties question. It was never a question about your salary, but essentially you're doing 2 full-time positions. Like, how do you manage that? Also, in media, so I guess I'm a little confused because you said that the community and program initiatives line was going to be used to help them, to help train them on the live stream software. But they also have $6,000 in professional development. Is that the purchase of the software? And before you get to that, the one last question about overtime for IT. The acting pay is only $25.60, but last year they spent almost $4,000 in overtime. So what are you gonna do to really keep those overtime costs closer to that $25.60?
Well, last year was an unusual year only because of the number of events that we had due to the 150th celebration. I believe that the $2,500 that is requested is more realistic in terms of the overtime that we expect to see from the division. Yes, you are correct. The professional development is what is going to be used for the training of the staff on the
broadcast switcher.
On the live stream, yeah.
Yes.
But the community initiatives is going to be used for like the programs that Jamie spoke about, where we're going to have collaboration with like Onyx Keisha and other community partners for development of programs like that. Was it? And delineation of duties. You asked how am I managing the dual roles. So I will say that that's why it's very important that I have, I depend on the various, like the director of IT, Jamie's a station manager, Jackie's the lead person communications, I depend on them to lead the department, so to speak. And I work with them collaboratively to shape the direction of the department. It's very important in wearing two hats that you have a team that you can depend on, and I do that. It requires a lot of extra and long hours. I mean, do you want a description of my day-to-day of what I do on a day-to-day in order to manage the two roles? I'm not quite sure how I should answer that question.
I think you answered it. I mean, if you want to still provide that day-to-day description, that's fine too.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that.
Also, I had the question about the outside consulting services for media. Did you answer that one? I'm not sure if I got that one. That's about $20,000 for this year.
Okay. Yes, that outside consulting services for media. From time to time, we have publications that we are not equipped to handle in-house. We don't have an in-house desktop publisher. We don't have the capability to do in-house desktop publishing. And there are certain projects that we have that require us to go outside and use outside consultants. Again, with that being said, given the current environment and what is happening, we're gonna have to take a close look at and realigning those, maybe streamlining how we, prioritizing whether we need to use those services for this year. But typically that's what that line item would be used for.
Thank you.
Just to interject quickly, regarding her delineation question, rather than going, hour by hour in terms of what you do every day, just tell us how many hours you work a day and give us an idea of what the percentage apportionment of, do you spend 50% on one and 50 on the other, and how long are your days?
I have very long days, Council President. My days are very long.
More than 8 hours?
Many more hours than 8 on a day-to-day basis. I work typically it varies, but I would say Normal, on average, I put in about 12 to 14 hours each day.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move to Vice President Armati.
Hi, Director. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. So first, I want to thank you and your department for the work that you guys have been doing, especially when you guys are sharing these COVID numbers. Now, these are numbers that the public, as well as the council and the administration, needs to be aware of. So I do want to thank you guys for putting that out, on a regular basis. I also wanted to thank you guys for sharing the community resources, because a lot of people have been affected, whether it's the children that are not in school or other people in the community that have needed things. You guys have made sure to post that. And, I wanted to also give props to Aliqua and your team for finding the right platforms for us to be able to deliver virtual meetings, whether it's these budget meetings, our council meetings, or the chats that the mayor has. I think that you guys have done an outstanding job on that front. I did want to inquire about a couple initiatives that you guys have planned, including, number one, any ads or, marketing campaigns that you guys had to, boost the city, how those were going to go and, how those are planned for this year. Number two, there was a media portal that you had mentioned as part of the redesign on the city website. So, if you could just elaborate more on that media portal and, what it would do. Last but not least was the State of the City booklet that you had mentioned as one of your initiatives. The mayor was slated to present one, and I know that COVID kind of scrambled all that. So, it might not even be up to you to answer if the mayor wants to also answer what the plans would be for him delivering it and if they were still going to do that booklet.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. As far as the marketing campaign, like with everything else, our marketing plans for 2020 have to be totally realigned. The year is almost half gone, and so we have to re-examine that, and we have actually started looking at that plan and making amendments based on how we can't accurately predict how none of us know how the rest of the year is going to play out. Right now we're going on a week by week, month by month, day by day basis. So all those plans are going to be contingent on, how and if whether we open up and how it opens up, right? And how that, a lot of our marketing plans are tied closely to initiatives from other departments like economic development. It depends on how their plans proceed. That drives a lot of our marketing plans as well. So right now it's almost impossible, to really say with a great deal of accuracy that we're absolutely going to do one thing or another. But what I will say is that, again, it's going to be driven by the priorities of the mayor and the priorities of the administration based on how we have to do business moving forward. So as far as the media portal, I would like Jamie to speak to that.
Mr. Glover?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
There we go. What that basically is we had a plan or an idea to make it like an on-demand service so that, and for those individuals who don't have PCTV, they can actually go to the website and click on a little tile of a program that they want to watch at any time they want to watch it. That includes council meetings. That includes any PSAs from the mayor, any special videos that we may create. But it's more just like an on-demand type service. So you'll have one portal. You go to the website, you click on a link, and that will bring up like an on-demand type situation. You can just watch what you want to watch at that time.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mayor.
I just want to respond to what I thought I heard from Councilman Armati as it relates to, I believe, my state of the city. At this time, although it is always good to reflect and to look back and to provide an update to our residents in terms of what had been accomplished, I think it's more important right now, given the state of the pandemic, the crisis that we're in. I am not focused on looking back at the accomplishments of 2019. My focus and the focus of this administration is on the present and on the future, looking at how we best manage the resources that we have, how we are to respond to the financial needs and hardships that our residents are experiencing, and basically what things would look like in terms of our employees and City Hall and the public, and being able to open back city government and open back the city. Those are the things that I'm focused on at present, and those are the things that my administration and I, with your support, quite frankly, are focused on. So I'm not looking to do a state of the city. It is not likely that that would happen this year.
Any follow-up questions, Councilman, Vice President
No.
Armati?
No, thank you, Council President. Thank you, Director, and thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome, Councilman.
Okay, Director Clayton Hunt, good evening. I'd like to thank you for all your hard work, and certainly, you know, the 10 to 14 hours that you're putting in every day on the behalf of the city. That's a lot of work. You know, hopefully there's some balance to that to prevent you from becoming burned out and with all the hours that you put in. And, you know, personally, I wouldn't like to see that to happen, because I think you are very valuable to the city as a director and assisting the mayor. So thank you for all the work that you put in. Also, you know, certainly thank you for this platform as well. You know, we got it together. Yeah, you know, as many may know, the first council meeting didn't go as virtually, didn't go as well as we wanted to, and we had to make some changes to make sure that we can get all the council people on the screen and so forth to find a solution. You know, so we did have to withstand accept the criticism from that and improve on design. So thank you for just continuing to be nimble in addressing to make sure that we're presenting the best we possibly can for our residents. And I'm hopeful that in terms of the website, we're able to be nimble as well. When we know we have something that we need to work on, that we are able to devise a plan in order to get something that the community and the city is proud of. And you know, Councilman McKenna has, you know, he is in market and so forth. In a perfect world, we'd be able to, you know, leverage the experience that he has in terms of, you know, that detailed eye. So it would be nice if we can leverage all the experience of any council person has regarding making this, you know, the upcoming website as best as it possibly can for the benefit of the community. So I would encourage, you know, that type of that. My only question, well, it's somewhat of a comment, a little bit of a question. With the PCTV, I'm aware that there was an outage recently where many residents, you know, either they didn't have sound or the video went out, and they weren't able to view what was on PCTV. And you know, there are some who that's how they get they're able to view our meetings and to, you know, get information from the city. So speak a little bit about the outage and what's has been done. One, whether or not the outage persists. What can we do in order to eliminate outage times with the PCTV? And because it is, you know, it varies in terms of the type of device that people are, or I won't say device, but television that people are using on the PCTV, it would help if the fonts are bigger rather than smaller fonts, so that regardless of the resolution of the television, that people are able to see the data without straining their eyes. So that's just a comment. But just talk to me a little bit about the PCTV difficulties and how we can improve that.
Basically what happened is the Verizon encoder. So Verizon is the only station that's out right now. We have a Comcast channel and a Verizon channel. So the actual encoder that broadcasts the signal from Verizon and gives us the actual channel broke down. Now that device is probably over 20 years old. We've had 2 techs come out in the last week, and they determined as of Monday, I was there with the tech, that they have to order a brand new encoder. So that should be in sometime this weekend, we're hoping. So there's nothing that we can do on our end. It wasn't our equipment, it wasn't our signal, it wasn't anything that we did or we could actually do to rectify the situation.
Okay.
It's basically it's an actual box. It's like more like a Cisco router. So like Comcast is more of a drop into the ground. Verizon provides a box that sends a signal that we connect to via the internet.
Okay.
So once that goes, there's absolutely nothing we can do. So
All
currently, like I said, it should be in this weekend, hopefully. It'll take less than an hour to set it up, and then we'll be back to business.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to the CBAC representative, Bright.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Director Hunt.
Good evening.
And thank you for all the information you've been putting out via the website, newsletters, and the videos that you've been doing. They've been very informative at this time of COVID-19, and we do appreciate it. And just for the record, I'm often on the city's website, and I must say I've never really had a problem finding anything that I was looking for. Could there be some updates? Sure. Technology is forever changing and evolving, and I'm sure the updates will be implemented soon. But again, I never had a problem finding anything I was looking for. We do have some questions for you. Some of them were already asked, but I'll just ask them again. And one of them was about the salary of the director and for communications and why it was so low and not in line with the other director salaries. But I believe you already addressed that issue. So you probably don't have to address it again. The other one was for consultant services. There was no request last year. And what is the need in the work consultants this year would do? Is this more than consultant? And that's on page 1 of the under director. The next question we had was for media communications. The 2019 increase goal to Latinx community. What are the plans and what is ongoing for 2020? And are there any funds allocated for that item? And if it is, what percentage of the budget is it?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
In the goals for the media communication, there for the 2019 goals, there was a ongoing outreach to the Latino community. The question is if that's ongoing for 2020, and if so, where was it reflected at in the budget, and what percentage of the budget for that department would it be? In the media communications, again, salaries, we want to know what was driving an increased salary year over year since 2017. There's been almost a 43% increase in salary. The general question is, has the roles of the department changed or grown? And if so, what is the overall staffing strategy? For information technology, we had a question of what is the need of the department, which drove overreach in 2019 and increase of the ask in 2020. That was line that was the salary and wages. And in information technology budget, there's a line item. It's on page 2. It's 003-224 for $10,000, but there's no it doesn't say what it's for. So if you could just let us know what that is for. And that was the extent of the questions.
Yes, if you'd like, I'll take the last one first.
That's the one I told you that you were gonna have to answer.
Line 224 there is that $10,000 is allocated for computer purchases. You heard discussion about continuing to upgrade desktops. And so there was money put there for that to happen under the control of IT.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about the fact that it's not labeled.
Okay. So yeah, I believe I addressed the question about the salary of being split across 2 lines. And I addressed the consulting services. That is for the Cisco's services that are being offered through the city in collaboration with Union County College.
Mm-hmm.
For media and communications, outreach to the Latino community. Yes, that is ongoing. And we have really just folded that into all our outreach projects. What we've done in respect to that is that we have taken our advertising in Hispanic newspapers. We have collaborated with some of the local Latino leaders in terms of getting representation at when they have local events, and working with the known Latino leaders to push our message out. So a lot of it doesn't necessarily need an excess amount of funding. It just requires face-to-face interaction, but a small percentage of it is allocated for, like I said, ads in Hispanic newspapers and things like that. What's driving increase in salary year over year in media and communications? So in the last year, we added someone in media and communications, we added another body in media and communications, and that's probably where you see the big jump. There were 3 persons previously budgeted under media and communications, and now there are 4. So I believe that's what you're looking at in terms of the 40% increase that you're asking about. IT salary and wages, I'm not sure. Are you asking about the percentage increase year over year as you did for media, or can you clarify that question for me?
Yeah, let me see what they were. No, actually, sorry, that really wasn't the question.
I would go back in time and say that IT's increases have been basically tied to the contractual agreements, which include both a percentage increase plus whatever the steps would be.
Right. Thank you. Actually, the question was for the outside consultant services.
For IT?
For IT, yes.
Okay.
There's a line item for requested 65, and the admin is recommending $100,000, We wanted to know what that was for the outside consultant at 265. And if the admin lowered it to $100,000, would it be enough money to achieve whatever goal you were trying to do with 265?
To be honest with you, that was that additional 165,000 was placed in the wrong line item. That should have been part of our capital amortized over the next 6 years, and it was placed in the wrong line item. I believe that's what was about. That was about Director West. Can you shed some clarification, because this one.
Well, what line are we talking about now?
Outside consulting services in the IT budget.
CFO Garza, if you have an answer to, you can chime in.
Yes, I can help you out here. I think the original budget as submitted with the 265,000 included the Cisco work that was in the director's budget. However, that director's budget, where it has $93,000 for those outside consultants for the Cisco, et cetera, 77,000 of that was transferred from Mr. West's budget. So it's really only an increase of $16,000 under the director's budget, which was funded there. So this was cut down back.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Director.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I do have a follow-up question.
Okay. Go right ahead.
All righty. Someone just from the CBAC team just sent this question in, and they wanted to know if the journal was paid for via sponsorship, why is there a budget item for $30,000, and what is the cost of publishing the journal?
So the $30,000 that is there for publications, that is what we historically spend. That is not include the cost for the journal. That's what we historically spend year over year on the publications for the city, inclusive of the Mayor's State of the City booklet and the 2 newsletters that we put out, and inclusive of printing costs and consulting costs for the cost of all the publications that we put out.
Okay.
Thank you. That was it. Thank you.
Mayor, you have the floor.
Yes, Council President, I just wanted to take 30 seconds to clarify a part of the answer that I provided to Councilman Armati about the state of the city. The charter requires that I give an update on the state of the city annually. And I did that officially at the reorg meeting earlier this year. So I fulfilled the requirement of the charter. The expanded state of the city is something that I have put in place since I took office. But in terms of my obligation under the charter, that was fulfilled at the reorganization meeting. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. And also thank you, Director Clayton West, for your presentations and for answering the questions of council.
Clayton West.
Clayton West, Clayton Hunt. Mr. Hunt.
I'm not going to respond.
Okay, yeah, that concludes that portion. Just to give you a little idea of what's to come next, I've now requested that any proposed amendments from council members be sent to myself and the finance chair no later than this Friday, May 22nd, in writing. And the week after that, on May 17th, the CBAC will have a meeting.
No, not the 17th.
Did I say the 27th? I meant the 27th, not the 17th. I said the 17th. With the CBAC members, the Finance Committee, where each CBAC member will be given 5 minutes to give their budget recommendations, as well as the CBAC report. And after that, we will have the Finance Committee meet, and with my approval, we'll present an amended budget to the entire body on the June 8th combined council meeting. So I encourage all council persons to submit what they have, help us, help as a body. We need to see what we can do to bring down the budget now that it's all in our hands. Okay, so let's see. So we now move to public comment, citizens participation. A total of 30 minutes has been allocated for public comments. If you wish to be heard, please hit the hand icon, and to be recognized, you'll be unmuted. And once that occurs, give your name and address for the record. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. The floor is now open.
Timothy Priano, 1405 Martine Avenue. I want to say again, this has been an enlightening experience watching CBAC run through these numbers in the confusion of lines and the overlapping of many budgets. And I feel sorry for the CBAC team that had to use so many hours to read a financial report that could be a lot simplified for them. But on the point, legislative branch of this government decides everything. Make sure that we are protected by the budget. So it's not the administration's budget. It is now your choice to make it the council budget. You will make the decisions where the cuts are, where you feel as council people they need to be cut. Because ultimately, administrations will be let go, people move on, directors don't keep their jobs, but council people are all voted in. And if we don't watch the dollars, we need to make sure that people aren't losing it after this year. Because if our taxes go up, we have to prepare for this pandemic. It will be gone here for another couple years until we get back to normal. So I just advise all our council people to look at it closely. Cut the fat. Congress does it all the time. They fight with the president. There's no difference between the council fighting with the mayor or cutting budgets. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Priano.
Hi, Mary Bergwinkle, 1785 Sleepy Hollow Lane. And good evening to everybody. I have two comments. First of all, listening to the communication presentation, I'm wondering what the metrics are for deciding whether to spend money on advertising and for some of the programs that are on PCTV. There has to be a way to measure whether anyone's watching it or whether we're getting anything out of some of it. And I might have, maybe that was answered, I didn't hear it because a lot of questions were answered tonight. My second comment is following up on the two jobs that the director holds. It seems untenable to me that you could be the chief of staff for the mayor and the department director of communications and IT. If you look at the charter, section 4.5, department heads are appointed by the mayor, however, or directors are appointed by the mayor. However, under section 4.6, they're subject to the direction and supervision of the business administrator. And the business administrator has a lot to say about what employees get hired for that department. It just seems to me that there is an inherent conflict of interest there. If sometimes to me, it has as though some of the communications coming out from the city are almost tainted to the point that they look like public relations from the mayor, for the mayor, and not just imparting communication information to the other citizens of the city. And there is a communication role that obviously you don't want to be not positive about the city, but there's a communication role that you should just be getting information out to people when they need it. and if you report to the mayor half time, and if you report to the city administrator half time, or the business administrator half time, and if there's an emergency and you have something place to go with the mayor, but the administrator wanted you to stay and handle, straight out communications to the city, who do you listen to? That's, I'm surprised that, I'm just surprised that what seems to me to be an open and obvious line of conflict of interest has been allowed to persist for this long. So thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Council President, council members, department heads, Mayor Mapp. I would like to commend you on the leadership that you have demonstrated through this crisis that we're suffering in town. Well, not only in town, in this country. It makes me proud to be a Plainfielder. I've lived in Plainfield for 55 years. I was reading a newsletter today and learned that the governor had partnered with Walmart and Quest Diagnostics to expand testing capacity in New Jersey. I just wanted to say this type of information is so critical to our community at a time when there is no clear direction coming from the White House, leaving every community to develop their own plan. So the information that we're receiving like this is critical. And I just wanted to let you know that your hard work is greatly appreciated. As I always say, this doesn't happen by itself. This speaks to leadership. It speaks to the leadership of our mayor, the governing body, the department heads, and I just wanted to give a heartfelt thank you. Because during this virus, everyone is suffering from this. But while you're suffering, you're still able to keep Plainfield in a high standard of disseminating information, Plainfield standing tall. And I just wanted to give a thank you to that. And a comment regarding the furloughs. And I know the city's, financially burdened right now with this coronavirus, but I was wondering if we could do furloughs instead of layoffs, because layoffs affect people financially at a time when they need their insurance, and it's challenging. It puts more of a burden on them in that time. That's just a suggestion on my part. I don't know what the city's, financial burden is at this particular time. And I have a comment, because I'm noticing a pattern. And I feel that we don't always agree with each other, but let's not personalize the criticism. Let's be constructive with the criticism. It doesn't serve the greater good of Plainfield, which is what I believe we all want. We may just have a different idea on how to go about doing it. Spirited discussions are good, they're necessary. It breeds progress. Let's not personalize it. I've been in Plainfield, like I said, for 55 years and have personally witnessed division and what it can do. It stifles progress. The development I've seen in Plainfield currently is unprecedented in my time. Thank you, Council. And thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Hello.
We can hear you. Hello.
Awesome. This is Sam Cooper. I wanted to say thank you to Director Brown for his presentation. Wanted to just acknowledge that as a resident or constituent, whichever you would like to categorize me as, I can attest to some of the fine work that his division has done whenever I have encountered some of his staff. And I don't know if I've met everyone, obviously, but they have always been professional. They always get back to me or the others that they were assisting. And I would expect no less from any other department. Unfortunately, that has not always been the case with other departments. I would like to suggest for whomever is doing the communication with the Latino population in Plainfield, that the next time you roll out flyers or any type of distribution that may come out of the mayor's office to consider putting the 800 number for the Spanish-speaking population on that instrument, whether it be via email, whether it be a phone call. I noticed that the billboards and some of the communications that have gone out don't even have the main number for the census. But some of the struggles I know that we're facing is getting the Latino population to complete the census. So perhaps just put the 800 number there. There is a different number for the Latino population. I too am not here to stroke egos, but rather hold people accountable. You were all elected, you're in a seat, you have positions, you've been hired, you're not working for free. So there's a certain accountability of your own that you should be held to. And we are in a technical day and age. I am someone who does use the website. I have come to the council meetings as regularly as I could, since they conflict sometimes with the Board of Education meetings. I spoke about the website 2 years ago. So as a constituent of Plainfield, I don't want to hear about inheritance or we're working on it. I do not agree that in our town, with all the professional people that we have, the highly educated people that we have to outsource the running of our website. We should be able to have someone in-house, either logging in remotely or someone on staff. And so that I'm clear, I'm not referring to anybody specifically on this call. I am referring specifically to the website itself. I have come to the mic. There were a couple of things that were outdated that at least I'm aware of, that I was able to speak with Director Dabney about. Mayor Mapp happened to be there that night. We had a conversation about it. We happened to see each other maybe a week or two, maybe even a month or so later. He agreed that there was absolutely some outdated information on the website. That was 2 years ago. I'm looking at the website tonight, and there's still stuff that's outdated. So I'm just wondering, when are we going to get to a point in place? And I do understand that COVID is going on, and I'm not asking for this to be done immediately. But for those who are touting and saying the website is awesome and I never have a problem, that's great for you. But for those of us that are out here trying to use it and trying to download forms and try to go to different departments, it's several clicks. So instead of us getting money and loans together for a pedestrian mall, maybe we could scrape up a couple dollars and get our technology together. Because that same technology is the one where you're trying to point people to get information. And that includes the Latino population. If I can't, or some of my people, friends, associates, clients, etc., can't access the information, what does that mean for the non-lay person who is trying to come to the website? Or, maybe they're trying to get identification, or maybe they're trying to get the dog license or anything else. It's definitely a horrible experience. And we as a people, with, again, the education that we have in this city, we can do much better. So I'm hoping that you will take that into consideration while we're remapping and doing different things during this time, and figure out what will serve the community best and move forward. And as McKenna said, yes, it was great in the beginning, but technology evolves. And we shouldn't have a bunch of paper. We shouldn't have a bunch of clicks. If we can get to that point, I know that it would be a better experience, and that will be a place that we can guide people to when they need to go for a permit, building, pay their taxes, etc. It definitely is not user-friendly, and I am not the only one that feels that way. So I wish you all the best. I'm truly hoping that this will get better. I am still happy again for these Zoom calls. It's great that we're able to do it. Thank you for even considering that platform for your community. There was mention about the Facebook page.
Council President.
my time's up, then I can say goodnight. I don't have to be extended.
You
I'm
sure?
good.
Okay.
I'm good. Yep. But thank you for that opportunity.
You're welcome. Mr. Robinson, if you're still on there, just give your name and address for the record because you failed to do that when you got on.
Neither did Sam Cooper.
1068 Kenyon Avenue.
Okay. Sam didn't give her name and address as well?
No.
Sam, can you state your name and address for the record, please?
It's Sam Sakitha Cooper, and it's 90 Brokaw Boulevard, Plainfield, New Jersey.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, may I have a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition, abstentions? Public comment is now closed. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any oppositions, abstentions? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.